Welcome to Be Customer Led, where we'll explore how leading experts in customer and employee experience are navigating organizations through their own journey to be customer led, and the actions and behaviors employees and businesses exhibit to get there. And now your host, Marbu Brown.
Hi, everyone, and let me give you a warm welcome back to another episode of Be Customer Led. I really enjoy the time that I get to spend with you and our guests, and I'm excited to dive into another topic that will help you on your journey to raise the bar on customer experience at your company. Every other day, there is a new headline about whether companies are getting their money's worth for their AI investments, and I'm committed to bringing you conversations with guests who have already done that at their companies or who have helped their clients to do so. Today, my guest is Brian Schiff, who is co-founder and CEO at Flip, a leading voice AI and conversational automation company that is focused on AI, voice AI for companies in retail, transportation, and healthcare. And they have handled now millions of calls in those industries. Welcome to the program, Brian.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I'm looking forward to our conversation lots. Before we get started on our discussion about how AI is transforming CX, we'd like to give our audience a chance to get to know you better. Could you share with us a little bit about your background and how you came to be the co-founder and CEO at Flip?
Yeah, of course. So our story goes back to when me and my co-founder Sam were freshmen in college, got introduced through a mutual friend. He had been sort of in and around startups kind of his whole life, and me not at all, but took an instant liking to it. And early days in college started working together and just kept on pivoting until we landed on the earliest conception of what we do now, and been building ever since.
That's a great story. I mean, I'm sure you love what you do, and you guys are having success at it. But I'll tell you what, I just kind of alluded to what Flip does. Why don't you, give our audience a little bit more background about the company, what it does, how it's helping customers, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So one of the beautiful things, sometimes in B2B, you're building a company and it is the most jumbled words and it's a use case that nobody can understand. And that can sometimes be a challenge in B2B software. We have the benefit of building a solution that is incredibly relatable for everybody. Right? You and me and everybody that we've ever met practically has called customer service and gone through a horrible sort of key press automated IVR system and then waited on hold, spoke to somebody, got transferred around to a couple departments, and has just sort of felt the pain of what customer service still is in so many organizations today. And what we're doing is we're replacing those sort of outdated IVR systems with a really good voice AI experience. And we're doing it in those three specific industries that you mentioned, which just makes it a product that is easy to pick up and use and turn on and deliver great experiences and get great results for the businesses in those industries.
Sounds great. I think we can all relate to that, Brian. I'm thinking that there are a number of problems that CX leaders have been beating their heads against the wall, trying to solve for years without success. I call them the 8 perennially intractable problems that AI is helping CX leaders to solve. In fact, in the latter part of 2024, I contributed to a book where I laid out those 8 perennially intractable problems, and one of them specifically was this whole idea of reimagining IVRs to fast track resolution of inquiries for customers. And so, can you share with us exactly how Flip is using AI to help crack the code on that problem? And help our audience understand exactly how you all are doing that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, in any conversation, you need to be able to understand what the person on the other side is saying and then respond in the appropriate way. So at a very fundamental level, the technology has needed to get to a point where those basic human skills are something that a machine and AI system can do, at basically the same level. And we're now at that point, right? Everybody has had the experience of speaking to, whether in a chat interface or a voice interface, ChatGPT and all of these different systems that are out there. So there's been huge evolution in the underlying technology. And then so much of the challenge that's faced at the, when a business tries to bring this into their organization and deploy it over the phone specifically, but really in any of these channels, how do you build the specific system and design it and control it and integrate it into all of the underlying tools in your organization in order to have it be an experience where your callers are going to enjoy it, they're going to want to talk to it, and it's going to be able to follow your business process, follow your brand, and resolve all of these routine conversations that are coming through your support line every day. So it's been an evolution of the underlying technology paired with, hey, how do you take this technology and package it into a product in a way where it's going to, repeatably be able to deliver the outcomes for businesses that they're looking for?
Got it. So what you're saying is with the advancements in AI, the technology is much better at understanding customers' questions and providing customers answers in a more human-like manner. But why don't we dive into that a little bit deeper and get a better understanding of how flips a solution differs from traditional IVRs or chatbot systems. Why don't you delve into that and shed a little bit more light on that for us?
Yeah, you can start with the basics. No more key presses. That is a relic of the past. We can let that RIP, as they say, rest in peace. So somebody calls in, you answer right away. It is a voice that is clearly intelligent and modern to the extent that you're able to personalize the experience right off the bat based on understanding, based on the phone number, who the specific customer is that's calling, and then being able to lead a dialogue where you're going to quickly establish trust with the caller. You're going to figure out the specific reason that they're calling, and then you're going to execute the procedure as that brand has designed it in order to resolve those types of requests. So, for example, somebody calls in, right? Let's say I'm calling in, I'm greeted immediately. Hi, Brian, thanks for calling Corey Birch. I see that you have an order that's currently on the way. How can I help you today? Then I'm able to say, yeah, I'm wondering when that order is going to arrive. It is integrated on the back end into both the order management system as well as the underlying carriers, where you can pull the latest tracking information and then respond immediately in real time back to me and say, Brian, I see that your order placed 2 days ago is on its way. It was last seen at this location and it is scheduled to arrive tomorrow morning. And then offer to even text them their tracking link. So it's quick, it is integrated, it's entirely driven by voice, and you're offering an experience where customers can call in 24/7 and they can get quick resolutions to all of these routine issues that come up.
So that sounds like a really good experience, but it also sounds kind of straightforward. So I'm thinking about the scenario where somebody calls in about something that's not straightforward, that's maybe a non-standard kind of request, or that doesn't follow like the typical path or something like that. How do you all account for that? How does the system handle that? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we serve 3 industries, as we touched on. We serve transportation, e-com retail, and healthcare. If we focus on the retail example, like the call scenario that I gave, for our retail customers, we have workflows built out of the box for the 200 most common call reasons. And we have integrations out of the box with the 100 plus most common systems that these brands are using in order to power their operations, from order management to loyalty to returns, subscriptions, appointments, and so on. So when a customer calls in, right, and you said it's a non-standard request, maybe it is non-standard, or maybe it's just sort of, maybe it's not one of the 5 most common reasons that somebody is reaching out, but it could be in the 25 most common. And the reality is with Flip, you have out of the box access to the 200 most common. So what we see is almost all calls that are coming into these brands fit into a bucket that is something that we do know how to, immediately understand. And then the brand has the ability to set up the workflow. So yes, there is a long tail beyond that, but we see 95% of contacts are falling into those buckets. And then the control is in the hand of the brand to say, how do we want Flip to respond when somebody is reaching out about this topic? So sometimes they say, we want the AI to execute this resolution. We want you to cancel the order. We want you to share the tracking link. We want you to initiate a return label. But for other things, they'll say, we want you to escalate this to a human, and we want you to send it to this very specific queue where these specialized agents are. So let's say somebody has product questions, or they want to make a purchase, or they want to cancel their subscription, and you don't want the AI to automate those things. You have the ability to, right at the start of the call, when you identify that that is the reason, take that, send it off to a human in the correct queue, and let them pick up right away and sort of take the conversation from that point. So all of that control is in the hands of the brand. And there are some calls that fall outside of those 200 most common that are mapped and built out, but it really is a long tail.
Okay, so I get your point. You all feel like you've limited your scope. You're focused on a certain set of industries, and you feel like you've covered your bases, so that there's not much left to chance, if I could put it that way. So you don't feel like you're going to have too many of these scenarios that you can't deal with. But I'll tell you what, look, people have had bad experiences with the legacy versions of these technologies, right? So you can expect that there's going to be some reluctance, to use these AI systems. Like, how do you win them over? I mean, how do you get them to go ahead and really buy into using these AI-driven, IVR replacements, if you will? How do you get them to do that?
Yeah, I think at a basic level, we approach this with the philosophy of 2 things. One, the caller's motivation is to solve their issue as quickly as possible and move on with their day. This is not, the highlight of their day that they're so excited about that they want to spend as much time on as possible. This is a task on their to-do list, and the goal is to get it done as quickly as possible. And in that way, there's a real advantage to the caller of solving their problem with the AI, right? Because it's instant, it's right there, it's ready to help you, it's fast, you don't have to wait on hold, you don't have to call during business hours. So there are a lot of reasons why the AI has an advantage in being the preferred choice of the caller. And then you need to match that with a strategy in the conversation and an approach of, we are going to earn your engagement, and we are going to show you right at the start of the conversation that this is a different sort of experience. It is an intelligent experience. And if you try and talk to it, we are going to understand you, and we are going to very quickly get you to the solution that you're looking for. So part of it is, understanding that a 24/7, always on, always available, quick AI experience is actually a great solution for the problem that they're calling about. But then holding yourself accountable to, we can't design this in a way where we're forcing people to talk to it. We need to earn their engagement, and we need to earn the trust to go and solve their problem for them. And that is how we approach the design of the conversation. And if at any point somebody says, I want to talk to a human, we're going to then go right ahead and move them on. So we bear the burden of making sure that quality of the experience is there, and that people aren't getting forced into these endless loops that have been associated with, previous generations of these products.
Yeah, so I love what you said about earning the customer's engagement. Because when it gets right down to it, I mean, a lot of customers are still encountering voice generated IVR systems and chatbots that have not incorporated the latest advancements in AI. And so they're not getting the type of experience that you were just describing, right? And whether we like it or not, every time somebody encounters one of these systems, it is training the customer what to expect when they encounter one of those. So that whole notion of having these philosophy that, hey, this is not, the highlight of the customer's day. They want to get it done, get on with it. And B, you got to earn their engagement. I think those are big pieces, that are pretty important. So let me switch gears a little bit, because, like one of the hot button issues about implementing systems, like the one we're talking about, is what impact is it going to have on people? Are there going to be like, wholesale loss of jobs in contact centers? Like how do you balance the human element with the AI automation element? That's a real hot topic. I want to hear your thoughts on that subject.
I think that there's not nearly enough people doing support at these companies, basically across every industry right now. When you call and you end up sitting on hold for 30 minutes, it's not that the agents are all out on their lunch break. It's that they're all preoccupied helping other customers. There are too many requests coming in for too few people. And when you're able to introduce an AI system that is going to take 50% of the load, right? It's going to solve end to end by itself half of the calls. What you're doing is you're expanding the capacity of the labor workforce, and you're making it something that is not just human, but is also augmented by AI. And the two of them combined now have a capacity that is enough to handle the volume of requests that are coming in from customers. So are there cost efficiencies that brands will take advantage of when you have this sort of capability? Sure, but this isn't people aren't getting rid of their entire teams and just having everything handled by AI. It is much more of the AI is helping people meet the demand that they've never been able to truly serve in a human-only model.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting perspective on the people aspect of things, because for sure that there's a lot of conversation about cost efficiencies, and a lot of people are looking at possibly to some extent reducing the size of their workforce. But I can see what you're saying, that a lot of people are not even able to keep up with their current volumes. And so this, really creates more capacity, and it's a really interesting perspective there. So let's talk success. I mean, like, how do you measure, the success of these implementations? I mean, like, what kinds of metrics are you all looking at? What kinds of metrics are your, clients looking at? There's a lot of talk about whether or not AI is, producing the type of ROI that, people have been looking for. Talk to me about, the types of metrics that you all are using to measure success of these deployments.
So Flip today handles millions of calls every week across hundreds of brands, from folks like Tory Burch and Hot Topic to Madison Reed and Newell Brands and Hims and Hers. So both sort of classic retailers and also newer, younger, digitally native brands are all leaning on this product and have made the transition from non-AI powered in their customer experience to being AI powered. With everybody, there is a consistent theme around the metrics that they're tracking to understand the success or failure of the product. And it starts with the quality of the experience. So the classic CSAT surveys, as well as metrics like hold time and recontact rate and abandon rates and all of those things. as well as what percent of the contacts is the AI handling, right? If you go and you invest in a new AI system and it's only handling 5% of the contacts, then it really isn't making a difference in the organization. So it's that balance. And when you are able to have an AI that both handles a lot of the contacts and does it in a quality that is as good or better than a human, that is the first really important checkbox that everybody wants to see on their AI initiatives. For us now, we've had the benefit of, right, we've been doing this in retail since 2022. And we've been able to see for some of the customers that have been with us for longer, what does not just year one look like, but what does year two look like? And what does year three look like? And after you're automating 60, 70% of your contacts, all of the routine, relatively, low dollar implications conversations, where do you then want to go next? And the trend that we're seeing with these customers, and it's the direction that our product is headed, is not just driving efficiency and quality of experience, but actually using these thousands of phone calls that are happening with your customers every day to drive outcomes on the most important metrics that matter to the brand. So now we're not just talking about customer experience metrics. We're talking about sales. We're talking about retention and mitigating cancellations and returns and fraud. We're talking about subscriptions and, both growing the subscriber base as well as reducing churn out of the subscriber base. When you can take somebody that's calling in and they have product questions, and you can not only answer the product questions, but you can also convince them to go ahead and complete a purchase right then and there, you're going beyond the walls of what has classically been expected from a customer experience team, and you're driving the metrics that matter at the board level. And that is the direction that we see all of this going over time, and that we see our frontier customers living at and innovating at today.
Yeah, so those are some really solid metrics that you laid out there, and it brings to mind a couple of things that I want to dive into a little bit deeper, right? Because, like, for example, you mentioned about the percentage of contacts that the AI is handling, right? And there are some contacts that are simple for the AI to handle. Something like for a retailer, like, where's my stuff? Somebody trying to figure out what's their order status, or for a banking customer, it might be something like, what's my balance, or did this check clear, or something like that. But what if somebody wants to go through something that's a little bit more involved, like, doing a return or getting a refund or canceling a subscription? Can the platform take them all the way through the workflow to get that done? Even so, aren't there sometimes some challenges in like the AI handling those a little bit involved types of transactions? I mean, like, let's take canceling a subscription, for example. I mean, I've had the experience of being in an endless loop trying to cancel a subscription, and I imagine you probably have too. I mean, just the other day I was reading about people who are trying to cancel their gym memberships and are having a devil of a time trying to do that, right? So why don't you talk to me about those things and shed some light on that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with phase one of that. The ability to execute a cancellation, the ability to execute the sending of a return label, the ability to execute subscribing somebody, those actions have been a part of the platform for over 2 years now. And they are the bedrock of how you, right? When somebody reaches out to a brand, almost always they are looking for information or they are looking to take an action. And to actually be solving their problem, you need the ability to do those things. So to that first part, yes. And that is, been the promise and the reality of the platform for multiple years now. To the second part around, hey, they're calling in and they want to cancel their subscription. It's a great customer experience to make it quick and easy for them to do it. But is there an opportunity for a win-win scenario where actually the customer is happier with the solution they walked away with than the one they showed up thinking they were looking for, right? Can you convince them that adjusting the product or adjusting the quantity or putting it on pause or any of these adjustments to the subscription are actually the preferred outcome. And they were just canceling because they thought that that was, the only option that was available to them. But when we're having these conversations and somebody says that they want to cancel their subscription, we are following a strategy that has been designed, tested, aligned on between Flip and the brand that they're reaching out to. And we're looking for those win-wins. We're looking to understand at a deeper level, what is the reason why somebody is choosing to cancel? And then how can we resolve that underlying issue while keeping them as a subscriber of the brand? So what we see for a lot of our customers, whether it is subscriptions or it's appointments or it's just canceling an order or returning an order, we're able to increase by 40, 50, 60% the conversion rate, the save rate on these cancellation requests by having this high quality conversation that is getting at the root cause of what people are dealing with and getting to a solution that is both better for the consumer and better for the business. So, yeah.
So let's talk numbers a bit. I mean, you've talked about the different types of metrics that you all are snapping to, and to some extent how the platform is able to handle that. But one of the big metrics you talked about, for example, is this whole notion of what percentage of the contacts are being handled by the AI. And so let's talk numbers. What are you guys seeing in terms of, with your clients? What percentage of the contacts are being handled by the AI? What kind of results are you seeing for those?
So the average is 50%. The low end of the poll is in like the high 20s or low 30s. And then at the high end of the poll, you're in the 80s and even sometimes in the 90s% of all contacts, which, I mean, imagine, right, you've been a CX leader. Imagine running an organization today where AI is handling and resolving in a very high quality way, 80 to 90%. That is, the word transform gets thrown around a lot. That is, you're running a different organization. It's a different life day to day inside of a company like that. But most people are around that 50% mark. And the big difference between somebody at the 25 or the 50 or the 75 is how many of those 200 call topics are you choosing to let the AI handle? When you first start an engagement with Flip, the AI is not handling any of the contacts. All it's doing is gathering data around what the distribution is like for your specific brand across those 200 topics. And then one by one, it is an iterative process of working with our customer success team to configure it the way that you want it and to turn it on. And for the folks that are automating 25 or 30% of their contacts, they're probably having Flip handle a couple of their most common call reasons. For they're at 50%, Flip is handling 15, 20, maybe 25 different call topics. And then for the people that are really leaning in or at the highest levels of automation, they're doing 60, 70, 80 different workflows that they have turned on inside of Flip. They probably have Flip integrated with 5 or 6 of their core underlying platforms in order to run what is really the modern customer service organization.
So you're talking about automating anywhere from 20+% to even 90+% of the contacts going into the contact center. Any way you look at that, that's a material part of the contact center business. So what kind of lead time are we talking about, and resources to do that type of a deployment? I mean, isn't that going to be a heavy lift?
There are 2 types of vendor in the market right now. We fit into the bucket of very industry specific, right? Verticalized vendors, where the benefit of working with somebody like us is all of the workflows, all of the integrations come out of the box. They're battle tested against millions of calls every week that hundreds of brands are already using. So when you come in and you start with Flip on day 0, you are standing on the shoulders of giants. Right. And everything that has been built and refined with all of these other brands across the last couple of years. And so you're able to step into something that is, it's battle tested and it's doing it day in and day out for companies just like you. those results are real when working with those vendors. And, we touched on the industries that we're doing it in. In some other industries, there are very strong other companies that have taken this vertical approach. The other approach to the market is a more horizontal platform, tooling, consulting style approach where you're starting with a blank canvas and you're building the experience from scratch. If you're going to go that route and you're going to build from scratch, you are signing up for a much longer journey where you're going to go through all the growing pains that have sort of been done, experienced, and solved against already with a vertical solution. And I would agree, if you think that building from scratch on a horizontal platform, you're going to get to that level of AI sophistication and that level of workflow and that volume of workflow being handled by your system, that's going to take you a really long time. We're not seeing anybody using those platforms to that level today, but we are seeing it with any of these sort of industries that have these strong vertical players. There's just such an advantage to having all of these workflows built out, all of the integrations coming out of the box where you're able to turn on something that is incredibly robust and do it quickly and trust that it's going to, treat your customers in the right way and it's going to follow your business process in the right way. And it's going to give you a whole nother level of outcomes from, even what you've experienced in the past.
What about integrating with back-end systems to be able to handle those actions we were talking about earlier? Isn't that going to be a bit of a lift?
Much less than you would think. It is. So you have to integrate with the systems, but most companies, sometimes with a large enterprise, you'll have bespoke systems that you need to integrate with, but it's a bespoke version of a category of product that you already have 7 or 8 integrations. So they might not run on Shopify or on Salesforce and they have a homegrown order management system, but guess what? We know exactly what endpoints we expect from an OMS. So even that it's a much more streamlined approach where we know what the expectations are and what the trade-offs are. And then in terms of the workflows and in terms of the design of the conversation, all of that is built out. It's configurable, right? Every brand is able to control the specific brand voice as well as the specific business process with which they want to follow in their conversations. But you're not training models from scratch. You're not writing prompts. You're not creating flow diagrams. The experience of working with a modern vertical AI vendor is very different than the horizontal platforms of today or the previous generations that some organizations may have used, both either kind of on the voice-enabled IVR or on the chatbot side, where it really is you start from scratch on a blank canvas and you need to build it from scratch. That is a treacherous battle. And I think when you see stories like, what was the MIT study? It was like 90% of AI projects are failing to deliver ROI. If you're going to go and try and build a bespoke solution, you're just, you're trying to do yourself something that we've been, building and fighting and solving against for a number of years. That's going to be a really hard mountain for you to climb as an organization.
Yeah, so there's no point in reinventing the wheel, right? I mean, so tell us a little bit about the deployment process and, when the platform's in place, what kind of analytics and insights do you have in place to help the business make decisions? I mean, in the contact center, quality assurance is a big deal, right? Or understanding the types of conversations that customers are having with the AI and that sort of thing. What kind of analytics are you providing to the business so that they can extract the most value from the platform? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the first step of every engagement with Flip is what we call listen mode. And in listen mode, the AI is not even handling any of the calls. It's not automating any problem solving. You're not even talking to it as a consumer, but what it's doing is it's accessing all of these calls and it's purely doing analysis to understand at a very detailed level, right, across those 200 different call reasons, what is the distribution of why people are calling? What is the relative CSAT across each of these very granular different call topic areas, what are the actions that your agents are taking in order to resolve those calls? What's the recontact rate on these things? So in the human-driven customer service environment, you might in your CRM have a drop-down where the agent can choose from one of 6 different options around what was the topic that somebody was calling for in their post-case notes. But that's very high level, right? You're getting a small amount of data versus when the AI is having these conversations, you're getting a huge amount of very detailed data on what are your customers reaching out about? What is your agent doing? What is the quality and what are the outcomes that you're driving from these conversations? So the lights are turned on in a whole new way from a visibility standpoint with the analytics that you get access to. But I still think that that's secondary. And I think that the primary thing, when you talk about going from an experience of reaching out to customer service that is sort of by and large regarded as underwhelming and painful to one where it's like one where it flips on its head, that starts with changing the dynamics and changing the math around, you need to just get in there and start solving a high volume of these conversations in a high quality way. Doing that is the most important thing and the most valuable thing that you can do with AI inside of your support organization right now. The analytics are a fantastic supplemental piece that you can get with that, but getting a solution right that is going to be handling a lot of your contacts, doing the work that your humans are doing today, expanding that capacity of your team, that is where the real value is.
Sounds like you all have a pretty have your bases covered when it comes to analytics and insights. The kind of thing that the business can use to fine tune the platform and extract a lot of value from it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, there is a whole robust suite of analytics that you have where it really is an experience of the lights being turned on in a way that is really appreciated and valued by customers.
Well, Brian, we have covered a whole lot of bases about voice AI automation and how it's working for customers. And it's a good story. Companies are getting a lot of value out of that right now. But before we wrap up, why don't we look ahead into the future and talk about how, this is going to evolve. Where do you see this going? How's the technology going to evolve? How customers' usage of it is going to evolve, and how does Flip fit into all of that going forward? So let's hit that, and then we'll bring this to a close.
So I touched on going from stage 1 is, can the AI handle a lot of contacts in a high quality way? Stage 2 is, can you use these thousands of conversations to drive business outcomes beyond just customer experience? And when you are able to go from stage 1 to stage 2 and the results are there and they're compelling, there's a profound attitude shift that is going to happen inside of these companies. And we see this with just a handful of brands right now, where you go from the mindset that has existed forever of, we want to have as few conversations with our customers as possible because we don't have the capacity to support them and the experience is not good, it's expensive, all of these things. Right now, the game of a CX leader is a game of, how can I reduce the number of times that my customer is reaching out to me? To then, when you shift to a forward-looking world where each of these conversations is driving value, then suddenly it's a game of, how can I have as many of these conversations as possible, right? When you're able to orchestrate high-quality conversations at scale, that flips on its head, and that is a profound shift for these organizations.
Brian, I want to thank you for joining me for today's episode of Be Customer Led. It's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. I'm sure our audience has picked up some nuggets that they can use and some ideas that can help them fine tune and shape their AI deployment strategies for CX. And so why don't you tell folks, if they want to continue this conversation, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, first, appreciate you having me on and much enjoyed the conversation as well. You can follow us mostly on LinkedIn. We're super active there. I think we've got one of the more entertaining corporate LinkedIn accounts out there, and certainly connect with me as well and drop me a note. But thank you again for having me.
To our listeners, I want to say thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of Be Customer Led. And I want to invite you back for next time, because once again, we're going to have another great guest on the program. And we will be bringing you these conversations that you can use to help raise the bar on customer experience in your organization. And in particular, we're going to bring you more conversations that are going to help you to make sure that if you're doing AI deployments, and I'm sure that you are, you're going to be able to extract that ROI that you're looking to get out of it, because we're going to bring you folks who have already done it, and we're going to bring you folks who have helped other people do it. So that's all for today's episode. Thanks again for joining us, and we're looking forward to having you join us again next time on Be Customer Led.
Thanks for listening to Be Customer Led with Marbu Brown. We are grateful to our audience for the gift of their time. Be sure to visit us at becustomerled.com for more episodes. Leave us feedback on how we're doing, or tell us what you want to hear more about. Until next time, we're out.